It's interesting what you were saying before, Chris, about night and day came up, and it leads us on to our next topic, which is about the current landscape of the music industry. I guess we can dip in a little bit about Manchester, but also with, you know, the wider impacts. I suppose we can kind of split maybe the live events industry from pre-2019, and then after Brexit and COVID. From your point of view, what's the landscape of the industry at the minute? I guess, do you see it as almost like before Brexit, before COVID, or do you see it in terms of like it's just we had a pause for a minute and then we're back working for how we were beforehand?
I definitely felt like there was a pause and we've kind of gone back to normal, I guess. Like, not completely the same, but for me, I wasn't touring before COVID. I was just working in-house in one venue. So my kind of view of the whole scope of the music industry or within the live sound industry was very small, because I only worked either here or I worked at night and day. And that was my experience before COVID. So for me, when we came back from COVID, for me, it was like going back to not just wanting to be in one place. It was like, I want to expand now. I want to grow and I want to like better of myself. Do you know what I mean? But as a music industry as a whole now, I feel like in Manchester, I feel it's quite saturated within live sound engineers, within in-house sound engineers anyway, which is a great thing and also not so great. There's two sides to look at it, because when we first came back from COVID, I was one of the first sound engineers to come back. And I did that purposefully because I was like, it's dangerous because we're just coming out of COVID, but there's going to be a lot of work, so I'm going to scoop it up. And that's what I did. Yeah. I went out, I went to every single venue I could possibly go to, and I started gathering work and bringing it all in. It was great, and I got my foot in the door of every single venue I could even think of. And then 2 years later, everyone else has done the same. So, which is cool, because it means the industry has gone back to normal, to how it should have been. But obviously, people have realised through COVID and stuff like that, they don't want to be sat in these old jobs that have been done for ages. They want to do something creative. They want to move forward. They want to empower the lives. So they've gone into those industries too. So I would say like it's gone quite saturated at the moment. Seeing night and day from their point of view, it's tough to run a venue nowadays, especially like, I mean, Josh, you can probably like really sympathise with that. It's really tough to run a venue nowadays. There's a big focus on like more club night culture and stuff like that rather than gigs, because gigs aren't making as much money as they used to, and ticket sales are going up even more. But to say how like COVID did like kick it down a lot, it has bounced back dramatically in terms of people wanting to go out and stuff like that. Like not necessarily to gigs all the time, but definitely to clubs and being around nightlife culture again. I feel like people have really, really wanted to be involved in that, and that's where the saturation comes in. Or they just want to be a part of it and be around it and be surrounded by it, because no one just wants to be sat inside in the house anymore.
No, not at all.
Because we did that for ages. It gets boring. But yeah, it's definitely like there's definitely two sides to the coin with the industry at the moment, I would say, from my point of view.
And I suppose linking from night and day to hidden, is that a reflection of how you see things at the minute? The landscape of the industry at the minute?
Sort of. Basically, after COVID, it was almost like, let's go. Everybody wanted to go back out again. Everyone had all this pent-up energy. Do you know what I mean? I saw some of the craziest things that first year back, especially with freshers work in the clubs. So everyone was ready to go. And now it's almost leveled out a bit, because everyone's been out enough. Everyone's been out loads, and they start to pick the battles. We were talking about this before, but now I find that people are wanting to go on to like the larger scale things. So they're going to these bigger events that like cost £40 a ticket, etc. But they're picking their battles and they're going to these things. So the smaller events are taking the hit, and like so many clubs, so many venues have closed down since COVID. But some of the bigger ones are thriving more than ever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's quite hard to gauge. Do you know what I mean? There's like we were saying before, I think 90,000 less tickets or something last year were sold. So you can feel it, but then there's certain things that are doing really, really well. Do you know what I mean? So the whole climate is It is tricky. I mean, literally, so many venues have closed recently. Canvas, I think, is probably one of the latest ones.
Right.
That only opened recently.
I was in Canvas the night before it closed.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it was really, because one of my friends is like a promoter and a rep and stuff like that, and I was literally just meeting him. Like, I'd done a show at Gorilla, he was doing a show there, we were meeting up for a beer afterwards, and we were literally just sat in there, and I just was like, oh, I'm here, I'll help the band load out, and just helped him load out, and then we woke up in the morning, and he sent me a text and was like, oh, this is literally just happened. I was just like, what? It was a really odd feeling.
So it felt out of the blue almost.
It was like you say, there's less tickets selling and stuff like that in the lower venues, and you can actually see that because I still work in lower level venues still, as well as doing the bigger stuff, because I always think it's important to stay there. And you can see this like kind of decline a little bit of less people coming to local events or self-put on events. It is tougher, I'd say, afterwards. No?
People don't buy tickets as much as well, like in advance now, because of cost of living, things like that, and people can't afford to spend them 3-4 weeks in advance when they need that money for other things, so they leave it to the last minute. And obviously, if you're a venue, you go on ticket sales. The night could spike 3 hours before the event. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm finding out which room that we're going to be running in, and I'm waiting until half an hour, and I've got to set up multiple rooms just in case it happens, because they're like, we don't know how the tickets are going to go beforehand. You know what I mean? So it's like, people buying tickets in advance was before, people used to buy a ticket and be buzzing about it for months, have it on their phone or something like that ready, or have your paper ticket and be really happy. Nowadays, people leave it to the last minute, which really, really affects a venue, because if you can't, you need the money beforehand anyway for various other things, but
cash
also
flow and things like that.
And then also, if you can't gauge how many people you're going to have in, you don't know how to staff your venue properly, you don't know how many security you're going to have on, etc., things like that. Do you know what I mean? All these things play into it, so it's tough. It is tough. I don't think it's. I mean, we're still going. We're still okay at the moment, and there has been bad periods of time, and it's hard to get through, I know, across the board of it. But at the same time, like, I'm still like seeing some of the best nights that we've had there ever at the same time, and the atmosphere hasn't changed within the venues. The people still want to go out, and if anything, the people that are there want to be there. Do you know what I mean? So they're not just going out just because they're going out. They're going out because I really want to go and see this artist. So the atmosphere and everything is still really great, but it doesn't. Sometimes that isn't enough. It's hard.
It certainly is. And you're painting quite a stark picture. What's happening at the minute? In terms of, like, I suppose, the supply chain, if you will, for events and festivals at Solotech, how are things there? Is it with the current landscape of the industry, lots of artists booking big tours in? Are you always the cables that you're looking for? Is that happening every day for different artists as well?
So March to October is the crazy time, and then you've got that downtime period. But say if something needs to go outside of the UK, like, not to bring up Brexit, but it's called a carnet. So if you've got these like massive looms that need to go to Belgium or wherever, they'll go on a carnet to say they're going out of the UK and whatnot. But you'll find that when freelancers come in, they'll be like, we don't need that. So then you'll take it off, and then they'll ring up and be like, actually, we did need that. Can you send it? It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll just prep it again. Or they'll just like, I want all them breakouts. I want all of this. I want all that. And it's just like, mate, calm down. You can have them, but other people need them too.
Yeah.
So there is definitely I think people just want the best gigs.
Is there a huge demand at the minute for what Solotech provide?
I wouldn't. Yeah and no. At the moment, it's kind of wheedling into because we're getting into that period of where it's all hectic again. But yeah, you'll find that some are really chilled out about it. Then some are just like, I want everything. I want to have. It's just, you've just got to do what you've got to do.
And work it out one way or another. Yeah. Find that cable. That's the bit
find the cable.
That's the one. It'd be in there somewhere. Callum, from your point of view, I suppose you were telling us before about the work you were doing with Zara Larsson and Ed Sheeran tour. Obviously, then COVID happened, Brexit happened, and were you working with Dua Lipa at that point on that tour? So, what's from that point onwards?
So I kind of committed to working for Dua from like the end of, say, like October 2019. So we went full steam into a new album campaign with her second album, and we did, say, from October till January 2020 of just flying around the world doing a 3-minute performance of her new single. And I was just like, this gig's sweet. Like, this is really good. And then we started, her arena tour went on sale.
Yeah.
End of 2019 to plan to go out around April 2020. So we started music rehearsals start of 2020, January. We did like a month and a half or something like that. And then we would still do the odd bit of promo. We flew to Sydney for a day. That was a fun one. Wow. And then back, and then straight back to rehearsals. And then obviously we start seeing on the news, there's something, what's this COVID thing? We're like, oh, it's not going to affect us. It's not going to affect us. We'll carry on. So we get to like week 5 of music rehearsals. We're just about to load the truck to go to production rehearsal.
Right.
Which is a massive step in terms of spending money. When you're doing a tour, you're talking about dropping almost £500,000 just to go, just to go into production rehearsals. So it was a massive don't we moment for the management team and the production and everyone. So they made the call to cancel the tour pretty early on. And it was Billie Eilish did it. Like, it was just one of those, you just saw the whole industry, everyone, and Live Nation were, obviously panicking, Ticketmaster, everyone. But once the people at the top had made the decision that gigs and shows, especially arena shows, just weren't going to be happening. I just remember the moment we were in rehearsals, like, a room kind of the size of this, with the band, everything, just set up, ready to go. And there was a whiteboard. And I remember the tour director explaining what a pandemic was. And thank God he did, because we just thought it was going to be a month of time at home. We were like, oh, cool. We'll redo production rehearsals just before we go into the first arena or whatever, or delay some of the dates or whatever. He like explained what a pandemic was, and we all kind of just went, wow, okay, this is going to be a long time. So we packed up all the gear, closed the door on the storage unit, and I didn't see that equipment again for, what I thought was going to be a year or longer. Wow. But luckily they went, okay, 9 months or whatever happened where I was at home doing nothing. And then they had to, completely scrap what they'd planned to do, and how do we promote an album during a pandemic. So, they were really clever and thought of every way they could, and we did all kinds of things. We did live stream performances, big award show performances, things like that. We did all the kind of like, the NPR stuff. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it. We did it's like the most viewed NPR performance, and we did it in like 20 minutes. Yeah, the Tiny Desk one. We did it in like 20 minutes, and it was it's like the most. Like, it was just one take. Really, everyone smashed it. Like, we just had to make the room orange and record. Like, it was obviously more went into it than that. But yeah, just stuff like that. And yeah, luckily I just had a good 3-4 months of solid work between rehearsing again and doing all the live stream stuff and what we could to promote an album. And that kind of, with all the government grants and stuff, it made me okay. And it made the pandemic go relatively quickly. And then I do a lot of TV broadcast stuff as well. So all that kind of stuff started happening again once you could. And then we get to 2021, the tour goes on sale again. Dua's tour gets cancelled again, gets postponed, gets pushed like 3 times. Like, it's just a massive mess by this time. Like, we never know. But obviously her album has gone massive by this point. So that means the tour has gone from what originally being like one show in every arena to like 3 shows in every arena.
Right.
So like for her,
yeah.
it was almost like a blessing in disguise, kind of in terms of touring sales and her career just going crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the tour eventually decides that it's going to happen start of 2022. So we go back into rehearsals again. I've heard this music a lot now, like and the band changes, like all kind of just things that happen over almost a 2.5 year process of starting a campaign and it not going out on tour. But then we eventually start the tour in the US, the start of 2022, and COVID is still a massive factor. If you weren't vaccinated and things like that, you couldn't come on the tour. You couldn't get into America. States had different rules. We had COVID officers on the tour. We were testing almost every day, wearing masks. And touring is hard enough. When you add in that element, it was really, and it was the winter in the US too, so it's really harsh winters, and wearing a mask all day, it was, doing arena shows. It's like, obviously I'm just a playback tech. I wasn't the rigger, or anyone doing and flying PA and stuff like that. Doing that with a mask on, like those guys. But by that tour lasted almost 14 months or something like that.
Yeah.
By the end of the tour, like there was no COVID anymore, and it was interesting to see how a production like the size of the one we were doing went from. And we would just have constantly chasing like each country's COVID rules. But we were like, in Canada, we were like the first show back after almost 3 years or something like that,
right.
2 years or whatever it was. So like loads of like nice moments, especially like seeing how the world reacts to music post pandemic is pretty special. So glad I got to see that. Yeah.
How did they manage to keep everybody together during those 18 months? Was it a case of just, we promise it's going to happen, we do promise it's going to happen, or were you on a retainer, or how did it work?
I think the retainer didn't start, I don't think, until like we actually started touring, which obviously for them was a smart move because could have gone on for much longer than it did. But I was really grateful for that work during the pandemic. It was a really scary moment to not know where your money was coming in from, and to be fortunate to work for an artist that still had work, because I'm so many friends in the industry that they didn't work for a good 18 months, 2 years like properly again. So I couldn't be the guy that was like, oh God, I've only got like 4 months work when no one's got any work. So I just saw the whole thing as very fortunate, and
and it all happened. Then there was multiple shows and awards and everything.
Yeah, we only cancelled one thing once it all started going again, and that was because of weather. Yeah, festival in Poland. So never cancelled the show because of COVID. We got close to it. We lost lots of key members of crew, but no one show dependent, I guess is the word to use. So yeah.
Chris, we've looked at Brexit, we've looked at COVID. What's for you the next 12 months? Do you plan that far ahead in terms of your career? Do you know who you're working with? Have you got things in the booked in?
Yeah. Well, I do now. Didn't used to.
So how does that work for in that? Are you just you waiting for the phone call, or is it?
Well, no, I'm kind of in constant contact with most of the artists that I work with. There's always conversations because I'm lucky enough to be in a situation now where I work for 2 bands where they're on opposite schedules to each other, which is super fortunate because it means when one band's touring, the other band's in the studio and vice versa and stuff like that. So it's nice to be able to go, right, my summers with this band, my winters with that band, sort of stuff. So, for example, like I'm with the summer with the Ratings this year and my winters with the K's. So it's a really nice feeling to know that the rest of my year is planned out and booked for. In terms of like in-house work in the venues in Manchester, it's mainly kind of a couple of months in advance, stuff like that. You'll get like emails or phone calls from head techs and stuff like that, just asking for availability, and you just say what you can do that month and stuff like that. I used to be dependent on the in-house work and had that as my main source of income, whereas now it's the opposite way around. I'm supplementing my touring income with my in-house work, sort of stuff like that. It's there to just top me up for when
I'm flipped over a bit.
Yeah, which it's a nice feeling, because at one point I used to be like, oh well, I've only got 3 gigs like a week this month, but now I'm like, oh, I'm on tour for 3 weeks out of the month, and I don't have to work for that extra week if I don't want to, but I can do if I want to, and it's a nicer feeling of having that kind of security there, which is, again, really hard to do in live sound. It's like because it's such a flip-flop industry. Like, and like 1 minute you can have everything, and then suddenly your tour can just get cancelled, and you haven't got anything for the rest of the year. So it's a nice feeling to have the security of like the 2 bands, and then all the venues that work in to supplement them up as well. It's nice. So yeah, I've got up until about December booked in so far, and then I'm starting to speak to a couple of different bands who I've met through working with this one for January onwards next year. And
with the Raytons, I know we'll kind of go into the kind of like career stuff in terms of, you know, contracts and things like that, but are you exclusive to them? How does that work, or is it like a verbal agreement? Or
yeah, it's more verbal because the Raytons are a bit of a weird one. If anyone knows the Raytons, they're a really, really cool, interesting bunch of people, but they're completely unsigned, they're completely independent, and they've got to the level they're at by literally just doing it themselves. And it's really strange to be in that environment, whereas when I'm with the K's, it's fully signed, they've got all the money backing them, they've got everything they need, and like they ask for something, they get it, sort of thing, which is great, and it's how it should work. But with the Raytons, it's more like they're literally doing it themselves. They're headlining arenas from one guy sat in his front room, just emailing every person possible. So with them, I've kind of like, they were the first band I did start touring with, so I kind of have like a verbal, I'm your guy sort of thing, if you know what I mean. Like if I get offered other work, I'll try and like, if someone books me first, they book me first, and I won't, like, it's kind of like, looked down upon, I guess, to, if someone's booked you cancel that to work with somebody else, so I'd never do that, but I would always speak to them way in advance and say, what's your year looking like, where are we going, what are we doing, and I plan kind of my working year around them, and we've just got kind of a confidence within each other that we're each other's go-to sort of thing, so it's nice to have that security of, we plan our years, or plan each other's touring schedules around each other, which is a nice situation to be in.
And I guess, kind of like you were saying, Callum, it can, if all of a sudden they put out another album and it goes massive, and you're like, well, actually, we're going to have to do 3 dates at this place rather than 1 day. You can adapt and go, right, we can fit that in as
100%.
well.
Yeah, we had a weird one this year because they were in a number 1 race with James Arthur, which is like it was surreal. It was proper weird. Because we ended up selling more albums than him, but he got the number 1 slot in the end, and it was like this whole kerfuffle thing. But to do it, the band put on like these, like if you buy like these small gig tickets at like, because they're from Sheffield, so like there was like they'd done like 3 dates at the Lead Mill sort of thing, but you have to buy the album to get the ticket sort of thing. So they sold loads of albums doing that. And like James Arthur's kind of like was like, no, you can't do that. Like you're not selling them properly and all things. But it was a load of rubbish. And it's proper weird because I love touring with them because they're just so fun. They just generally are down to earth, normal people. And like I've had a proper similar upbringing to all of them. Like none of them have worked like none of their families have ever worked in music. I'm the first guy to work in music in my family and stuff like that. And I really like relate to them, and it's a lovely working relationship because we just get on so well, and it's nice to do that on tour because you've got to really get on with people when you go on tour. When you're sat on a bus for like you say 6 months or something, and you don't like someone, it's hard, man. It's not nice.
It'd be frosty. Solo Tech. What's the next 12 months? We spoke before, and there's people that you work with. They're working and I suppose looking to work with on like big arena shows as well. Are you kind of in your next 12 months? Are you looking to get that experience alongside what you're doing in the warehouse? How is it looking for you in the next 12 months?
So my next 12 months is basically going to be working through each department if I can be spared, and going out on more gigs and getting as much knowledge as I can. But we have appraisals at the end of every year, and my manager we have different depots, so we've got Blythe, London, Canada, and then there's us, Manchester. So he was like trying to give me like a scenario of like, say if a system tech job came up in London but it weren't available in Manchester, would you be willing to move? So I was like, yeah, I've got no commitments. So that's more of like I'm jumping the gun a bit there, that's more like a 3-5 year plan.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's just I'm still getting my roots, and we're hoping to go 360. So there will be more opportunities available there because there'll be lighting and video. And I didn't realise that all the cables will be in one area. So you won't just have audio cables, lighting cables and video. It's all going to be in one. There's definitely going to be more career opportunities just in the departments, never mind being a technician or just flying PA.
I guess it's the same as like if a band that you're touring with blows up, but if a company that you're working for, if they like broaden out into different areas or they have success, again, for you, it then means, well, there's more opportunities to move into that department and maybe develop skills there as well, does it?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if anyone's heard of Renee Rapp. So, because I've made noise about wanting to go into systems, I had the opportunity to go into amps and build a node rack for that gig. And the node rack is basically you're in between from your amps to your front of house to your PA. So that was like, just that opportunity on its own tells me that like Solo Tech are very willing in that department. Just like, they're basically pushing you out the door, like, go on, off you go. Like, see you later. Tell me about it when you come back. So yeah, definitely opportunity.
Loads by the sounds of it. Callum, the next 12 months for you, we were speaking before, and I suppose, is it now moving from the work you were doing with Dua Lipa to front of house? Is that your next 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, since I made a decision to stop doing playback, it has been a lot quieter. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I was working for an artist that had guaranteed work for me almost every year, whether she was on campaign or not. And yeah, just me having to almost have to convince the industry that I'm the guy when they might not think that I am because of my previous roles that I've done. But luckily I've got those friends in the industry that are really backing me and trying to get me on as many gigs as possible. But I've got my first show with Olivia Dean next week, but they won't commit until that first show. So yeah, I'm kind of, I've got everything holding out for that, and jumping between that and Lauren that I spent most of last year with. Doing nice size academies and bigger rooms with Olivia, to then going into festival season with her as well. First proper show is Coachella, so hopefully that's gonna be a nice one to start with. I did that last year. That was good. Nice bit of sun.
Yes.
Too much sun, maybe. It's a bit of from someone that's been very used to having a whole year planned out to then starting a whole year with like nothing. It was very daunting and reminded me of like the start of my career a bit. Yeah. But I knew this transitional period of my career was going to involve that, both financially taking a hit and just not being as busy as I was before. And I know it's going to be a good 2 years of convincing people, but I've met so many new people in the last year that didn't know me as a playback tech or a drum tech or whatever, and only know me as a front of house. So it's that whole like, those people that won't put you out on a gig as a front of house because they're like, no, he's not that. I've met a whole bunch of new people that are like, this guy is amazing, let's put him on this gig. So there's, and a lot of them are US based people as well. So I've kind of cracked into a whole new side of the industry that I didn't really have access to before. So yeah, it's you might kind of lose some battles along the way, but you win some too. So yeah, I know I'm not going to be the busiest I've ever been over the next 2 years maybe, but it's fine. It's totally fine. I'm doing this for myself basically. So that's the most important thing.
Move on to a new chapter.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just every day I go to work now, I'm like the happiest I've been for years. So that's what matters. Yeah,
definitely. Josh, how's the next sort of 12 months looking? Is it the venue and what we're working on?
We're looking. We're looking at the summer at the moment. We normally have our down period when everybody else, when festivals hit, basically, because everyone stops going to nightclubs when the sun's out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We've got a courtyard. We do day parties and stuff like that. So we're really trying to just look at that and focus on the summer and try and make that work for everybody. Whilst you've obviously got things like Glastonbury, Park Life, other things like that, which obviously make it a lot harder in the clubs and stuff like that. So yeah, we're focusing on that. And then when it comes to September, obviously students come back, etc., and the club season sort of starts again. So that we don't really worry too much about that. Obviously, we're still looking and booking things in for that, the bigger shows anyway that you need to do far in advance. But yeah, at the moment it's looking for summer. For me, it's also looking at the summer whilst it's quieter is when I then go out and do other things and work at festivals. So I do work closely with Neuron still. So it's planning things, getting that in, getting wheels in motion for me, really. Do you know what I mean? So I've got some more security. I still do get paid over the summer, but it's more for me, myself, and what I want to do. I like to keep busy. I don't want to just be idle whilst there's nothing with things going on. So yeah, I'm trying to look forward to that. And then I suppose for me in the next 12 months is like we were just speaking before is deciding what I want to do now and where I want to carry on. I know that I can leave the club in good hands and I can leave it there. And I mean, I suppose what you said a minute ago is like it's about you and doing things for yourself and being happy in what you do. And once you've worked for a period of time, getting yourself to a certain position, and if you're lucky enough to be able to do that and to think about yourself and think that I can take a different choice, then I think that is definitely needed. So it's I think the next sort of 6 months, I think I'll probably get through the summer doing festivals and stuff, and when it gets back into the new club season is when I'll start really reevaluating sort of where I want to go and my next direction.
I think for everyone it feels like that you're concentrating on the here and now, but also thinking about what's next as well, and always kind of planning ahead and thinking what's next. Our final topic is about soft skills, and I guess networking. You mentioned before, Chris, the idea of like setting things up and maybe putting your name in the frame really for other things. Do you combine, I suppose, in a way, that idea of networking? But is it like promotion? Do you do any like social media stuff? Are you kind of like Instagram live all the time? Like, how does it work for you?
I'm terrible with social media. Like I can't use it. I'm rubbish at it. Like I said to you before, I haven't updated my LinkedIn in about 3 years.
I was talking to you about job things you were doing. Like, blimey, I'd forgotten I'd done that.
Yeah, I'm very much word of mouth, and I'm very much like based on word and the promises you give to people and the work you've done. Yeah. I'm very much about like it's a who you know industry. It really is. It's very rare to apply for a job and get a job like that in this industry, and that's my favourite bit about it, because I hated that process of like you ever worked in an office or ever like worked in a shop or something. It's horrible. That whole interview process and thing. I've never really enjoyed it. I've always really loved working hard for somebody, guaranteeing that you're going to do a good job, and them to really like refer you on to somebody else. And I do that for other people too. Like if somebody does a good job for me, like, yeah, stay with me. Like we'll work together. We'll make this a good partnership. And I do that when like the last couple of tours have been on. Like obviously, the last 2 tours have been on. I've been doing front of house. With the 2 different bands I've been doing front of house, and the 2 other monitor engineers that I've been working very closely with, like we've just got on like a house on fire, and it's been brilliant. So we've just like networked, we've shared each other's contacts, we've really like we've gained work from each other. That's how I go about it. Like I'm not a social media guy. I can't like, I'm not one to just like post a selfie and be like, oh, I'm available on these days. No, I'm sorry, should have swore, but like, I'm very much get your foot in the door, work hard, make your contacts, keep people happy, and because like if you work with someone in this industry, like I said before, you don't get on with, or if they just don't want to commit, or they don't like say like when you're on a festival stage and you're running it, and someone's just doing an half-assed job, you're just like, bro, come on, like we've got to make this happen. So I never wanted to be that guy who was to be the one slacking. Like you've always got to like pick your feet up, pull your socks up, and like really crack on. And I feel like that's how I've made my work and my connections. It's just through grafting, just working hard. It's tough out there, man. It's a competitive industry, and when you actually do a good job and you see, like I always say, like we're in the business of happiness, Like when you actually look out over the crowd and you see people singing, dancing, cheering, having a good time, like that's the best way to work. If you just go like moaning all the time, it's like, oh, what's the point? Like we said before, do stuff that makes you happy, and just work hard at it, make contacts, move on. Like that's how I've always kind of approached my work, to be fair.
Do you need to do promotion? Do you do the social media stuff? Do you need to kind of do that kind of thing to get work, or is it more a case in your situation? Does it come in through the company? How does that work? Do you need to do any self promotion or anything?
I'm pretty much the same as you. I'll take pictures of like things that like when I flew a PA and I was like, wow, I've flown. I was like, I did put that rigging bit in, didn't I? Like, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Photo evidence. Yeah, it's there.
Like, just like. Yeah, like, that made a really massive bang. It's like, but no, I don't touch social media in that respect.
No.
So our project managers are very keen for us to go out and do things. So I went to one of them and I was just like, what would one do if I wanted to go out more? They were like, well, I'll talk to these guys, let them know that you're making noise about wanting to go out. So that's how I got on the last couple of gigs, through going to just talking to project managers, like, have you got a spare space? And speaking of interviews, it's not in management, like solo tech, they're all approachable.
Yeah.
Which in this industry, I think that's what you need, because if you've got something that's not working and you're like, oh, I don't know how to fix it, and you're worried about going to someone, you're never going to get it done. And I'll never forget my interview. Like I came in on the day that I had the experience, if you will.
Yeah.
And my manager come up to me and he was like, well, we'll come and get you at midday. So I was like, right, just like psyching myself up. I sat down and I was like, right. He got a white Kit Kat chunky out of his pocket, opened it up, he was like, right, so just tell me about yourself. I was like, oh, right, I can relax now. I can do this. So I think the personality side of it is a lot to, because if you're an idiot, you're not gonna, no one's gonna want to come to you or be on your gig, or no one's gonna want you.
Reputation can go in front of
definitely.
you, right? Yeah.
So as much as you promote yourself, it's your reputation at the same time, because you need that reputation of being not so much a nice person. Obviously, you need to, obviously when people need a kick, they've got to have it. But if you're someone who's hard to get along with, then it's not going to be a very nice gig. So promotion and reputation, I'd say,
go hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you
It's
agree?
always like you'd rather work with the nicest person there than the best person there.
Definitely.
Because they might be the best person for the job. Well, not the best person for the job. They might be the best person at the job.
Yeah.
But if no one likes you, no one wants to get on with you, it's not gonna go well. So I'd rather have someone who I can work with and work together. And that's exactly what you've just said. I think it's working with the best people.
It's that kind of chemistry of a team. I suppose you were saying that with the band as well, isn't it? It's a chemistry, and that's why it kind of clicks together or works well. Callum, does that sound something that resonates with you as well in terms of, so I don't know whether you have like a website and like an Instagram all the time, TikTok?
Yeah,
and,
so I'm not posting. I never post something saying I'm available. That's like the worst way to get work. But because I am looking to kind of make it clear, like I'm just doing front of house now. Like I am really pushing, like maybe a photo of me by the console, just to make it clear, like to those industry people that may follow me, to be like, oh, I didn't know.
I'm doing this now.
I didn't know you did that. And it's really helping that. And obviously I'm doing like big shows. So it's like, it's kind of, it is somewhat, obviously you've got to come and hear a show. Like that's the only way to actually know this guy's any good. But yeah, and like I see, because I'm away a lot, I spend maybe 9-10 months of the year away from home. Like I use social media as just a way of showing my friends and family where I am.
Yeah.
Like that's first and foremost. Like I'm not trying to show off. I'm not trying to do anything like that. I'm just like, I'm truly using social media as social media. Like I'll post,
scrapbook.
I had this really great meal in Auckland last night, and then I'll get all my foodie friends like replying, that kind of stuff. Like that's important. And the industry is so small. If you know, like I followed Chris the other day, like, we had
like 60 of the same followers.
Yeah. It's just like,
you
just go, okay, and then like you're friends with him or her. It's like it's all like such a small connected industry that, and I use social media to, you know, I've followed engineers over the years, and like you speak for 2 years, but you don't bump into each other for but it doesn't feel like, you know, you feel like you're mates before you've even bumped into each other, and you'll do a festival or the Brits or, you know, an award show or anything, and or Capital Ball thing, or, you know, just one way. There's loads of teams all in one place, and you know it's. And
so some people
nice.
use it almost like as like a photo version of like a CV, don't they? Just go, this is what
Definitely
I'm doing at the minute.
like,
I'm not, you know, this is nothing else. Yeah,
like I'm not private on Instagram or anything like that, and I keep on top of my website and stuff just to somewhat have a kind of professional kind of profile out there, because it's not super important, but it definitely makes you, it convinces maybe people that don't know you, that you do decent gigs. It's just one of those, and the whole of everyone knows the music industry is like the most uncorporate, unprofessional $billion industry, basically, and like, when you talk about like job security and all that kind of thing, that's very rare to find that, and you know, if you mess up on a gig, you can be fired the same day, and you're on that next plane home kind of thing. It is a very cutthroat industry, and
reputation part of it,
it's a reputation, and sometimes you have to. I've got this weird, again, with my transitional period in my career where people still assume I'm on Dua, and I have to make it clear, like, I haven't got work for the next 2 years, thanks. I would like some. Like, it's like, you gotta really kind of, when you do need work, you kind of have to do a lot of knocking on doors again. And obviously, like, I think every production manager and tour manager hates January because everyone does the classic, like, Happy New Year. Got any work?
Yes, yeah.
But like, not asking it like that, but like they're in the same boat.
Just
going,
checking in.
I'm at home too, mate. It's a weird time of year, January and February. You can be fortunate where you're doing rehearsals or starting a tour, but it can be really quiet between Christmas and March. Yeah, it's going into the industry and knowing that is really important too. Like, it's like that for everyone, whether you're one of the you know, big names in the industry or one of the little people. It's quiet for everyone.
And is that a little bit of kind of leads on to, I'll ask you in a second, Josh, but just the idea of, do you have to squirrel a little bit away? Just if you got these quiet months, you know they're on the horizon. About having a good summer.
I've been doing this for a long time now, and I know that's a thing, and I really love my life at home as well, but like, I love both. Like, as soon as I'm on tour, I want to be at home. As soon as I'm at home, I want to be on tour, and that doesn't go away. I mean, when it does go away, you know, you shouldn't be doing that job anymore. But yeah, like, good home life, and just make the most of the time at home, and you have to budget, obviously, like your income is so up and down. But yeah, it all works for me. Fortunately, has worked out for every year of my career so far. So you might think you're having a bad year, but give it another month, you get a whole year's worth of dates in. So yeah,
changing like that, can't it? For you, Josh, reputation, social media, do you engage in all that? Are you sort of promoting all the time? I'm doing this at Hidden tonight, that at Hidden tonight.
No, not really. So I think we have to accept that it's 2024 and social media is a part of our lives. You know what I mean? I don't do it for my engineering work and stuff like that. I don't use social media for that. I mean, I might take a video of a show if it's a really good show, or if it's an artist that I like or something like that. I mean, like, currently at the moment, I'm in the process of completely taking apart some subs, and we're just reconditioning them and putting them back to sell them. So I've taken a photo of me doing that just because I find it interesting. More than anything, not really to promote that I can do this. Do you know what I mean? I do use my social media because I still do performance and DJing and stuff like that. So I use it for that. And again, I'm terrible. I hate talking about myself. I hate, do you know, that whole ego thing of like, come to my show. Like, I'm sure my mates are sick of me telling them it's the best show they're gonna ever have been to in their lives. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't really enjoy that side of it. But I think it is definitely important, even if it's for yourself, to document what you've done, so you can look back over the years and say, this is how far I've come, and this is what I was doing originally. Yeah. And because I remember this room used to look so big to me when I walked in here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And now when I walk in here, it's not the same. So for me to come back in here and realise how far that I've come in that sense of things, do you know what I mean? I think it's good for personally to have. But again, yeah, I don't, like you said, saying you've got dates or I'm available here to work is not a good way of doing it. I think everything I've done has been through word of mouth and people watching me work or seeing me work and then being like, okay, he's good. Do you know what I mean? We'll offer him opportunities. But having those skills of what you were saying before of being nice and like for me, I'm the face of the club when big artists come into the venue and stuff like that. So they don't see the bookers, they talk to them on email, they don't see the managers or anything like that, or the venue owners. They see me when I say, and I have to make them feel comfortable. I have to make sure women feel comfortable inside of a club. I know how it feels for people. Do you know what I mean? I can understand that. So, and just generally everybody has to feel okay, and I want them to be able to perform well, because if they feel comfortable, then they're going to do their best performance. If they're on edge about anything, they're not going to perform right. Do you know what I mean? So I try and make it as a pleasant opportunity. Now that shows when you get responses from people talk within the industry. So if you have a bad experience at a nightclub or whatever, or a venue, they're going to talk to their managers, their agents, or the people who are putting them on, and that's going to go around, and the next time they try and book somebody else, they can say, oh, we've not had a very good experience there, or the opposite, and say they were amazing, they were really welcoming, etc. So that's where word of mouth comes into it. This is something that you don't learn when there's as much theory as you can learn as goes, but that doesn't sort of translate. Now, there's been a lot of times I've had to bite my lip, or I've had to hold things back as well, when people are really, they might not be the best to work with, but you still have to do your job at the end of the day. So it's like you're getting the job done, and it's trying to work around and make the best out of bad situations and things like that, even when things are going wrong and think people aren't happy. Like you said, like if you've got someone who's just complaining and moaning all the time, like it's going to put you down if you're not the person moaning and complaining, and you're just thinking, come on mate, we've still got to get this done. It doesn't matter if you're moaning and complaining. So it's like you said, like you've really got to want to do the job to sort of make those things happen. But that also goes a long way. Do you know what I mean? I think that's how I ended up getting into my role eventually, because I wasn't always the head engineer. I started off just working there and stuff like that, and then people sort of realised, okay, there's the other side of it. Yeah, you might understand how everything works, but if you can't speak to people and make things work, then there's no point of having this knowledge almost, in a way. Do you know what I mean? Because and when you go on tour and things like that, you're going to be stuck with these people, working with these people consistently. So you can't start burning bridges at the very start, I suppose.
It's skills for life, definitely. That was the thing.